Welcome back to Boss Bitch Radio. Today, we are going to jump a little bit further into macro talk. It sounds like you guys really loved the subject. I know a lot of you are still struggling with trying to figure it out or really just hone in on how this can help you really get to the next level. So I am bringing back Coach Denise today. Say hi. What's up?
What's up?
And we're going to jump into a little more techie talk, a little more, if you're the girly who's been tracking and you're good at it, you're got your stride with it, you really need to take it to that next level and refine and tune some things that you got going on with your strategy. This is definitely the episode for you. If you're not there, it's okay. Just kick back, take a listen. You'll probably learn tons anyway. And we're going to go ahead and jump right in. So today's topic is really getting to those next level results. So we're going to jump into how is this giving us more control over fat loss and muscle definition? That is the key.
For sure. I love this topic because this is where a lot of women get to the point where they're like, I'm doing all the things, I'm eating healthy, I'm going to the gym, I'm eating protein, and nothing is happening. And this is the point where they quit.
Yes.
Yeah. And I hate to see that because they've put so much effort into, trying to change their nutrition habits and learning like what are the foods that I should be eating. And then they just stop because they're not seeing the results rather than looking at, okay, what do I need to tweak? What do I need to change?
Yes. And I think too, it happens because we get impatient.
Yes.
Right? Like I have tracked, you and I both have done macros for an eternity, and listen, secrets out. I think I'm going to start tracking my protein for him. I know her eyes just lit up, you guys. I didn't even tell her before we got on the air because I'm essentially doing the Goddess Body Project with the girls, and I definitely know I'm not getting in enough protein.
Yeah.
I'm being so naughty. I'm being a very naughty personal trainer right now.
And you know what? But that's the beauty of macros.
Yes.
Is that you learn how to do it and you can always go back to it.
Right.
Right. I mean, so many people think I want to track macros and they get so obsessive with it. That was me. I was super obsessive with it and I wanted to do it all the time until I hated it.
Yeah.
I literally hated it. And I had to come back and think, okay, why did I start doing this? Like I had a goal and it actually helped me understand the nutritional value of food, how much protein, carbs, and fats I was consuming, or how little was I consuming. And I had to really bring it back to, I don't need it to be perfect.
Yeah.
I just need to make sure that I'm staying within the right ranges for my goal. And that's the key.
Correct.
That's really where women need to focus.
Yeah. I feel like at least I'm personally noticing it's time for me to get back into tracking protein personally, because I know that a lot of my snacking is probably because I didn't eat enough freaking food and enough protein for the day. So I love that. Exactly what you're saying. You're spinning your wheels. And I just know I'm going into more of an intentional fat loss phase right now. And I don't want to spin my wheels because I know how bad that sucks.
Yeah.
Right. When I'm just like, I'm eating good.
Exactly.
It's gotten me so far and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
But I think the protein needs to be a priority. So let's talk about how macros really make up the foundation of what your body ends up looking like, because I think that is really the key point of really this whole episode is, listen, we're some vain bitches. We like to look good.
Yeah,
all right.
we do.
Summer's coming, bikinis, booties out, arms out, all the things. And you want to feel good. And part of that is understanding the nutrition piece of things as it relates to how your body looks, right?
Absolutely. But just before we get into that, I do want to touch on something you mentioned because, talking about how you wanted to get back to tracking and you've been doing this for ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that goes to show for those of you out there who are tracking macros or you've been tracking for 6 months, maybe even a year, and things are just not going in the direction that you want them to. You're not broken. It's not
Yes.
you. You can always go back and fine tune something to get the result that you want. Even those of us who have been doing it forever have to make some fine tune tweaks to get the results that we want. So I just wanted to make that point because I thought that was super important that you, as the boss bitch who's been doing this forever,
I'm a real person, y'all.
You still have to go back and make some tweaks. So
yes.
Yeah. So going back to the macros and how it actually shapes your body. So just eating healthy is not going to guarantee you the results that you're looking for. It'll get you so far. You will probably feel 1,000 times better, more energy. And so it's a great start. But if you are really looking to recomp your body, change the shape of your body, tracking just calories or just eating healthy is not going to help you. Why? Because number one, we need protein.
Yes.
If we're going to the gym and you're lifting, but you're not fueling your body with enough protein, the muscle ain't going to show up. And if the muscle doesn't show up, your body is not going to change. You're going to be a skinnier version, a slimmer version of what you are now. And if you're lifting weights, that's probably not what you're looking for. You are actually looking to be more toned. And I think we use that word toned very loosely.
My favorite word.
Yes. I want to be toned.
I like looking like a toner.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm a printer.
I want to be toned.
Yeah.
What that actually means is I want to have more muscle. You cannot be toned without muscle. And so you have to have protein, but you also need carbs. Carbs are going to help fuel your workouts. They're also going to help feed your muscles after the workout so that your body can replenish that glycogen. And if you're not having enough of the carbs, so I'm talking to you, all my ladies who are afraid of carbs, all my ladies who think they're going to get fat if they eat too many carbs, you're not going to build muscle if you're not eating the carbs. So get over the fear and start making sure you're having enough carbs. But carbs also help with recovery.
Yes.
For you to sleep well as well. So
big time. They help. I think it's with serotonin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so if you don't have enough carbs in your nutrition, you're not going to recover, which, as we've always said, is a very important part of building muscle as well, because that's when the muscle actually grows, is in recovery. So macros, it's not just eating healthy, it's having the right ratio for you.
Correct.
Not the general ratio, but the right ratio for you and your body and your activity level and your goal that is going to help you reach the body that you've been wanting, the body that you're working so hard for.
It makes perfect sense. And I mean, when I first started dieting, I don't know if you remember doing your very first diet. Like, that's not something we talked about 20 plus years ago, right? It was like, oh, here's the cabbage soup diet.
Oh,
I don't know if you did that one.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's exciting because you're like, oh my God, I lost a week. And you're like, yeah, bitch, you've been eating cabbage soup all week. What did you think was going to happen? You know, but good luck when you eat a pizza.
Exactly.
But it was just kind of like a calorie game, a super duper restriction game. But what I enjoyed when I started learning about macros, I don't know about you, is that I was really able to understand how to adjust them when I'm working out.
Yes.
Right. And like how it makes a difference that you don't just follow the same diet every single day because you're not doing the same activities every single day.
Exactly.
Now, this is, I personally feel is kind of like a next level approach, which we were going to talk about here in a second, like calorie cycling, but it does play a huge role, not only in what your body looks like, it's definitely how it performs too, and when you actually need certain foods.
100%, because how you perform is also going to play a role in how your body looks. Because if you're not progressively overloading and you're not challenging your body and you're not pushing your muscles, you're not going to build more muscle and you're not going to get more toned. So making sure that you're adjusting your macros as your body is adjusting. If you're getting stronger, listening to your hunger as well. I mean, if you are in the gym and you're eating the same macros and you're starving, then you need to make sure you're fueling yourself and eating more carbs, more protein. Your body's talking to you.
Yes.
That's the thing. And we tend to not listen to her. Okay, she's a badass.
She is a badass, but we're like, bitch, listen, we got goals.
Yeah.
And then we just ignore it and then it catches up to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you make the right adjustments to your macros for your workouts, for just life in general, I mean, whatever you're going through, we go through different seasons of our lives, right? I've talked a lot about like the gut issues that I have had. I couldn't eat the same macros that I was eating when I was in the gym all the time because I had to cut back from the gym. So if you go through seasons of your life where you are not working out as much or you're working out more, your nutrition has to be harmonized with your lifting. It's going to impact your energy levels. It's going to impact the progress that you're seeing. It's going to impact your performance in the gym. And if your performance in the gym is stronger, then your results externally on your physique are going to be stronger as well. So
hands down,
100% nutrition has to be harmonized with
I
your
love
lifting.
that. That's actually, I love the word harmonized.
Yes.
I just think it sounds like joyful.
Yes.
And so when all of it can be harmonized, it sounds like it works in your benefit, really. And something that you mentioned too is the energy levels. And I think a lot of times, you know, we're like pounding back coffee, me, and it's like, you haven't had real food today, right? Like you haven't given your body the chance that it needs, or the chance that it, can actually perform for you with what your body needs. And so when you are more aware of your nutrition through macros, you start to say like, okay, you can look at your fitness tracker and say like, okay, it's 3:00 and I've had 20 grams of carbs today. That's why I'm freaking tanking.
Yes.
Right. It's like data. It just gives you information.
I love that. And I use that all the time. When I get feedback from clients and they're telling me this week I was just really tired, I couldn't push my workouts, or, I just wasn't sleeping well, or, I look at all of those things. I will go in and look at their food log and be like, okay, so this week she hit her macros, but it seems like, she didn't have as many whole foods. She ate more processed foods, or she was consistently lower on carbs. She stayed within a range, but the types of carbs that she was eating just were not fueling her. So we look at this data, and it's so key because we track certain habits daily. And I can look at when she said, on this day I felt tired, and I can look at what she ate that day and the day before.
Right.
Correlates.
Yes. I love doing that. It's my favorite part of coaching.
Yes, because it's eye-opening. It's educational, right?
For them.
You learn, exactly. And so now they know, okay, this is where I need to make the change. And the tweaks are so personalized.
Right.
And when they make that change and feel the difference, the next week it's like a light bulb. It's like, oh, I feel better now. And all I had to do was,
it's really awesome, like the work in educating other women about how to take care of their bodies. Like you would think like you have this body, you're just born, you're supposed to know what the hell to do with it.
Right.
And, intuitively you eat some food, you move around, right? But when you start to really invest in prioritizing how your body feels and like you give a shit about how your body looks, right? Like you want to look good and feel confident. It's really eye-opening and it's so empowering.
Yes.
It's so empowering.
It really is. And the thing is that we tend to put more of the priority on how we look than on how we feel.
Right.
And the reality is that if you don't feel good, odds are you're not going to look good. So
they're very much harmonized.
Yes, they are. That's my favorite word.
Yeah, it's gonna be the word
they
of the,
really
of the
are.
week.
And I always say, first you're going to feel better and then you're going to look better. Because if our body is not functioning properly internally, it's going to be very difficult for us to get the results externally.
Ooh, that's juicy.
Yes.
And I think just to expand on that too, for those of you maybe that are just starting out in the new year, and this is kind of around the time people start to get frustrated, just keep going, right? Just remind yourself that right now you're probably feeling better, maybe sore or whatever, and you need to anchor to that until your body catches up to the results, because it's going to take longer for you to see. And we're always the worst critic of ourselves anyways.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And this is also where we have to remind women that feeling better is progress. We tend to just think progress is the scale or how we look or if our clothes fits, and that's progress as well. But the feeling better type of progress is going to come first. If you're not feeling better, you can forget all of the other progress.
Absolutely.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
So absolutely putting an emphasis on how we feel. And that's why we ask the questions on a weekly basis with our clients, in terms of what are your stress levels like? How is your digestion? How are your energy levels? What are you doing for self-care? What do you see when you look in the mirror? Questions like that, because it matters. How you're feeling really matters, and it's definitely going to impact how you look externally.
Always. Those two are very closely related. Okay, let's move into another one that is a hot topic around macros and why they're important, which is basically when you're paying attention to macros, you have the opportunity to really be in the driver's seat of your hormones. To some extent, right? There's some of it that we can't help just due to age and things like that. But when you are really paying attention to your macronutrients and understanding how they function in your body and how they provide the essential needs for your hormones, it's harmonizing.
Yes. It's harmonizing.
And it's also helps with avoiding stalls in your progress.
Yes.
So let's chat about that.
Yeah, 100%. So a lot of times, women will say, I'm eating right. I'm following my macros that I found on a calculator on a website somewhere. And I just feel so bloated, or
A big one.
Yes. Or I'm a zombie. I'm sleeping 8 hours and I wake up and I'm a zombie. Or I was losing weight and it was great. And now for the last 2 months, there's like nothing. It's all stopped. And this is so important because your body has hit a plateau because yes, you're following macros. Yes, you're eating healthy foods, but your macro distribution is probably not right. Your body has changed. And if you're not, again, harmonizing your nutrition with where your body is now and how you are lifting, you can definitely impact your hormones. And if your hormones are not balanced, everything is out of whack.
Yes.
And you can forget seeing fat loss if your hormones are not in check. And the thing here is carbs and fats play a huge role.
Yes.
In like,
cortisol.
Yes. Cortisol, thyroid function, estrogen levels, all of those things. If you don't have a balance in those areas, you're not going to see the results. So if you're one of the girlies that says, I'm just not going to eat all those carbs because carbs make me fat. Or if you're one of the ones like me that's always said, my body doesn't do carb very well. My body just doesn't. My body rejects carbs.
It's like worse when you actually say that.
Yes.
I feel like you actually are putting that into your universe and
100%.
existence.
Yes, you are. Your body's probably like, look, bitch.
I just tell my body she loves
like
carbs.
Okay, we do.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if you are one of the ones that is afraid of carbs, if you do that, I hear Vinny.
My cat is over here. We're holding him hostage outside of the office.
Yes. But going back to the carbs, if you chronically or consistently, I'll say, eat a low carb diet, you're going to feel tired. You're going to be fatigued, which means your workouts in the gym are not going to be strong. And what it also does is it creates other imbalances in your hormones that can lead to that stubborn belly fat.
Yeah, because you're restricting too hard, and that's common, right? I know I've done it, and then I'm like, why is my belly just not... It's not budging. I actually have some pictures that I found the other day.
Yeah.
Like,
So the bloating and
Right.
all of that can definitely be an impact of a hormone imbalance due to having the wrong macro distribution. So what does that mean? It doesn't necessarily mean just drop your calories. You probably don't even need to drop your calories. It's just switching up. Maybe we have a few more carbs, a few less fats, or we just, shift a little bit. And it can make a world of a difference. So having the right macro balance is really going to help keep your metabolism and your hormones working with you, not against you.
Yeah. And I think too, another one that I know I've been afraid of in the past, but honestly, you come from a bodybuilding background as well, is that bodybuilding diets are really low in fat, really low in fat. And that is actually very detrimental to so many hormones, brain health as well, joints, all the things. But it was very disruptive to your ability to drop body fat, honestly.
100%. This is why we say bodybuilding and prepping for stage is not sustainable. It is something that you're doing for a certain amount of time, but you have to be very mindful of your levels of fat. So you're going to get into levels of fat that are just not sustainable. But for everyone out there who is not looking to get on stage and doesn't have a goal of getting as lean as a competitor, you have to stay within certain levels of fat ranges. And this is exactly what we do. We make sure that there's always a certain level of fat in our clients' macro distribution to support that hormone health. And I know you, Diane, when you were coaching clients one-on-one, were the same way, but I refuse to drop fat levels down to a level that I know is not healthy
absolutely
to get
not.
results.
Yeah.
Because if you're not getting results and your fat is already like borderline low,
it's going to get worse.
It's something else.
Right.
It's not the fat that you're eating. It's something else. And we need to look at all of the other things like your sleep, your digestion, your stress levels. And we need to look at all of those things. I promise it is not your fat, but that's what we tend to do. I'm not seeing results. And so we quickly drop the calories and the first one to go is fat and carbs.
Yes. Fat and carbs. And the fat is, like I said, it is definitely one of those that you don't want to slash too low. And then there's obviously issues with it being too high as well, which we won't get into too crazy today, but you want to have a good balance of everything, right? So just as a refresher for those of you that maybe are lost in the macro sauce right now, come back to me. But protein is going to be a macro, carbohydrates, and then we have dietary fats. And a lot of times you're going to get fats when you're just by nature of eating your proteins and your carbs. There's going to be some fats in there, more from probably proteins than carbs, but you don't need a ton, but you need an optimal amount. And that can flex with different periods of your life. There's, different things. But the other thing too, that I think a lot of women think about, and I know this was off my radar, is when my fats get too low, I'm like ravenous.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like fat focused. Like that's when the obsession,
yes.
That's when the obsession with like peanut butters comes in and nut butters and things like that, where like I couldn't have nut butter in my house because my dietary fats had gotten so low in bodybuilding that like my body was just like, I had FOMO.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to treat that delicately, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. You have to have the right range, like you said, and not go too high to where you start, gaining fat, but you can't be too low. You have to find, like you always say, that Goldilocks level, right? The just right amount. So definitely paying attention to that is important.
Yes. And then something you mentioned earlier too, which was a really good point, is that you oftentimes know when it's time to change your macros.
Yes.
If you have been doing this for a while, right? You get good at it and you're like, okay, you start to notice different things, right? Like you notice your energy's off, or your workouts are starting to suck, or your recovery is trash. Like when you start getting your stride with tracking and really paying attention to what your body's doing at the same time, it really is pretty magical.
Exactly. Your body will talk to you. She will tell you, we're tired, workouts are suffering, we're just not feeling great. Your body will tell you, and that's when it's time to change your macro. Again, it's not just increasing calories, but really paying attention to the macro distribution. And that's where the magic happens.
Yes. Now that leads us into the last part of our conversation today, which is just chatting a little bit more about carb cycling and really how it can be used for boosting fat loss and performance and some other things. And I have a couple thoughts on this. It definitely needs to be done the right way.
Yes.
I think people give up right before it gets good, quite frankly, unless they have somebody they're accountable to, AKA a coach. Yeah. A lot of times will go a little bit wonky. So what are your thoughts on lifting weights, carb cycling, cutting carbs, all that fun stuff?
So the first thing I will say is if you are tracking macros and you are seeing results, there is no need to carb cycle.
I love that.
No need at all.
So true.
This is next level. This is, you've been doing all the things and you're tracking your macros, you're eating, you're lifting, and you've been doing it for quite some time and you're stuck. You're not seeing results. That's where carb cycling can actually be really helpful. But it's not just cutting carbs. It's strategically eating your carbs and timing them around your workouts and around your day. That's where it can get really tricky if you've never done this and you're just trying to say, oh, it's time for me to carb cycle because I want to lose more. That's the wrong way to do it. And you can very quickly either get yourself into a surplus or too deep of a deficit where you're going to cause more harm than good.
Yes.
So definitely it's strategically timing the carbs. But I want to make sure that I say, if you are seeing results, there's no need to do this. And one thing that I always go by and that I always tell my clients, because there's coaches out there that will start cutting carbs or just start carb cycling to give you something different.
That's crazy
to make you feel like you're getting your money's worth. Right.
Yes.
And so here's my view. You're paying me to get you results. You're not paying me to cut your carbs or cut your macros.
Yeah.
And if you are getting results with the macros you have, why do we want to change it? My goal is always to have women eating as much as possible and still seeing progress.
Yes.
And if you're seeing progress, I mean, I had a client for 12 weeks. We never changed her macros.
Oh, I've had lots of clients.
Never.
Yeah, like that.
But she saw progress the entire 12 weeks. Like, why on earth would I tell you now you need to eat less when you're losing fat, you're building muscle, you're looking great? Why would I do that just to quote unquote justify my coaching to you?
Yes.
Justify what you've invested into this program, right? No, you invest in a program to get progress, not for people to throw things at you.
And I think that to that point, another kind of good thing to consider if you feel like that might be you, where you follow macros, but you want to just switch them up just because one week you didn't lose any weight. I don't feel that's oftentimes a good marker for immediately slashing calories and slashing macros.
Yeah.
I have an athlete right now that her weight has not changed in 3 weeks. She's in prep. She's like 13 weeks out. She's freaking out. I am not freaking out, and that's because we know what we know. We know what we know about macros and fiber. And I know all the other stressors that she's under, and her body actually looks leaner and it's continuing to progress and her measurements are changing. But it's sometimes you have to sit it out for a minute and let your metabolism figure it out. Make sure you are indeed tracking diligently, because a lot of times there's a lot of, oh, oops, I forgot to add that in, and you aren't 100% tracking. So it is key to like follow them for a while. But to your initial point, it's great to just start off and don't change it if it's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. But exactly like you said, don't get impatient and don't feel like if you're not losing, 10 pounds in 2 weeks, oh, this isn't working, it's time to change. Because I, for one, know that when I start dieting and I make a change, I have to wait a good 3 to 4 weeks before I see like a 1 pound drop.
Yeah, that's me too.
I would get super impatient with that, but now I know, because I've done this and I've paid attention to my body. I know that if I make a change, I got to sit back and chill and just let my body do her thing, because she will respond, but you have to be patient. But the other thing too is about having carb days. When you do start cycling, if you have the higher carb days and you have lower carb days, you need to make sure that you're having them fuel your workouts, because what it's going to do is going to help you try to get a more intense training. That's your goal.
Yes.
You want to take it up a level, not just with your nutrition, but also with your training. And so having the higher carb days is going to help with replenishing glycogen. It's going to support your recovery, but it's also going to help prevent muscle breakdown, which at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build muscle, and we're trying to keep that muscle, because the more muscle you have. So the lower carb days, you want to have those on maybe your lighter activity days or your rest days. You also don't want to have more lower carb days than higher carb days.
Right. That's when things get rough.
Yes. They
really rough.
Get really rough.
It really affects a lot of things, but mostly your energy.
Right. But what that also means is that you're going to have more days where you have higher intense workouts than lower intense workouts. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to put in the work. But if you're having the carbs, that should feel a little bit easier for you.
Yeah. I love that. And it really, I think over the years, I think now intuitively, so there's a few different approaches I like to use and kind of offer up for you guys listening too, is even if you're not tracking macros, intuitively, I tend to carb cycle based on my activity, right? So I'm not tracking. So I know I don't need a ton of carbs every single day just for the sake of having them, right? So I eat to satiation. I don't push food. And so then on training days, I'm a bit more intentional. Like some mornings, if I'm not training, I don't feel like having carbs for breakfast. It's not the end of the world. I'll have them later. And so I kind of play around with that, but that is one way, is intuitively just eating more on your training days versus your non-training days, and try to do it around your workouts, right? So before and after, get most of those carbs there. There's another approach I like to use, which is like the weekend warrior approach. Mm-hmm. And I think this helps with adherence for some people, especially if they're very active on the weekends and like it does not look like their weekday schedule. So that's something that I always like to try out with girls. And then I think a more structured carb cycle based on like fat loss is really more towards that next level dieter, right? So where you're wanting a carb cycle for a show or like a really big goal, that's when carb cycling really is probably warranted.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah, it's not for the person just getting started either. I hear that a lot when someone is just starting out. It's like, okay, so how much or how little do I eat when I don't work out? Yeah. And that's like, we're not there yet. Yeah. We need to start eating consistently first, and then we can get into this. So that's a big mistake that a lot of people make. They want to jump into macros and start doing carb cycling and doing all the things, but you're not there yet, and you're not going to see the results, and you're going to get demotivated. Yeah. So it's definitely more the woman who has been tracking already, the woman who is consistently lifting and just needs to take it up a level to continue seeing the results.
I love that. And I think, this was just like a really good overall deep dive. I feel like we got pretty good on this one. Now we are really wanting to find women who are interested in taking it to that next level. So if you're struggling with this right now, you're just not getting a good footing with like your tracking or being consistent, we want to see you at our next masterclass.
Yes.
Yes. So let's chat more about that because that is coming soon, my friend.
Yes. February 9th. I'm super excited. 10 a.m. We are going to talk about all things macros. So this is for the person who is curious about macros, who has never tracked, but also for the person who has been tracking and feels like she wants to take it up a notch, next level, right? So we're really trying to have one masterclass for all the women, no matter what your level is of macros. We are going to go through some things that we'll talk to you about. What is a macro, right? What is it and how do I calculate it for myself? But also we want to talk about the power duo that is lifting and tracking macros. We hear it all the time. You need to harmonize your nutrition
it's a thing.
and your lifting. But do you really understand why? Has anyone really ever explained like why you need to do that? And I feel like when you understand the why, it's easier for you to buy in and say, okay, I get it. I understand now how that would work for me. And then we also want to teach you how to track macros and still have a social life, right? Because so many people think, oh, I'm going to start tracking everything so I can't go out because I have to put it in a tracker.
I know. That's so paralyzing for people.
It really is. And
we make it easy for you.
Yes, it doesn't have to be that way. So we want to teach you how to do that so that you can, you can get your social life back and get your confidence back and feel confident in your food choices. So definitely want to invite everyone to join us. We'll link everything up, I guess, here in the show notes. Yeah.
You'll also, upon registering, we have a macros 101 blueprint. So it's just a nice jump right in as soon as you register, and you'll get to kind of take a peek as to what we're going to be chatting about. So the blueprint gives you a bit more dive into macros.
Yeah, into what macros are. So when you leave the workshop and you have your macros and you have all of this newfound information, you'll be able to easily put meals together for yourself with this blueprint.
Which is awesome. That's what you need to get started. So the other thing why I really love our workshops is because we want you to come with questions.
Yes.
We want to be proactive in having you leave feeling like, I definitely now feel clear on what my next steps should be or how I should be approaching this for myself. So if you come, don't be shy, because we want to hear your situations and help you tease through some stuff too. And then at the end, if you are interested in coaching, Miss Denise is opening up her coaching roster at the end of the workshop. So you'll have an opportunity to work with her as well if you want to really take it to the next level. If you're like, you know what, I'm at that point, I need a coach. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels and I'm doing all the things that Instagram is telling me to do and the calculators are telling me to do, but you really just need to be guided appropriately through the process. She's a fucking badass. So you'll have that opportunity after the workshop if you're interested too. So
yes, come join us, bring all your questions, and really use this as an opportunity to learn and to get coached. This is going to be very interactive. It's not just going to be us talking to you. We want feedback. We want to troubleshoot your issues. So definitely come with all your questions and expect it to be a learning experience that you can walk away with clarity of what your next steps are.
I love that. We love clarity. So we'll link that up in the show notes. Go find Denise over on Instagram. Say hi. Yes. Let her know once you register. She's at MacroFit Denise over on the gram. Drop her any questions. If you have something in particular you want for the workshop, we can always get ahead of that as well. So we look forward to seeing you guys. Thanks for listening in.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.